I think citizenship is at the heart of the nexus between climate change and people, because people's lives get directly affected by climate change. Now, how citizens react to climate change varies from country to country. For example, a citizen in Germany will react very differently to climate change than a citizen in Pakistan. And the factors that go into determining the response of a citizen are embedded in their socio-economic conditions. I think unequal distribution of resources and inequality in income are two main factors that make the difference in how a citizen will react to climate change. The poor and the ultra poor and the unserved and the underserved communities will not pay much attention to preserving the environment, because they have to, I think first of their own lives and livelihoods. The rich somehow think they can pay for services, the ecosystem goods and services, and therefore they don't need to actually think of conservation. So unless we don't bring about this realization in people, in citizens around the world and within Pakistan, that we are living in a world of diminishing resources. And there will be a time when we will not have enough to go around. And if we don't take this ownership collectively, we will destroy the planet. I think when that registers, people will come around and start transforming themselves, because what we need here is a change in attitudes, change in behavior. And right now that is not visible anywhere in the world. You don't see anyone trying to change their lifestyles. People are trying to come up with new innovations and technologies to continue somehow the same way of life. But that's not sustainable. Things have to change. You know, globally, when you look at the role of women, I think the world recognizes that it plays a huge role in reduction in poverty. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, this concept has not found traction. And we have social and cultural barriers which make us think that women are vulnerable and women don't have an active role in decision making. When you look at the role of women in actual fact, you will see that most of the natural resources, especially in the rural areas, are managed by women. They are the ones who fetch the water, they are the ones who do crop cultivation from sowing to harvesting, they are the ones who collect fire for fuel, everything. But when it comes to monetization of that labor, it doesn't exist. And unless you don't have economic resilience and independence, I think your voice really doesn't matter. So we see nearly 50% of our population is women, and they're marginalized. They're not part of active decision making. Their views, their hopes, their aspirations are not reflected. So that is a setback for us. And I think we need to actively engage women and stop looking at them as vulnerable and develop their capacities and get them to play an active role. I think this is absolutely critical, because if you are not building resilience at the community level, you're not going to have resilience at the national level. And there's a big gap here again, because our governance structure, you know, at the district level, at the Tehsil, Union Council level, the state policy makers don't interact very closely with the non-state actors there. So they need to sit down and have some kind of institutional mechanism that brings them together at least once a year, and perhaps more, to review the needs of the people and reflect them in their policies and in their budgets. And I'm a great advocate of the open government partnership approach, because that gives you a set of commitments that you make that you have to then achieve within a given period of time. So this can help local communities take small but incremental steps towards their own development aspirations and move forward from there. I think one of the many outcomes of the Paris Agreement has been that it has put climate change on the global map. So I think every country in the world is now aware of climate change. And I think no country, including Pakistan, is doing enough. Because if you look at the nationally determined commitments and the commitments for reduction in emissions that have been made, we have not been able to achieve that target. We are far beyond that. And the latest IPCC report reflects that. They also say that the 2 degrees Celsius increase is no longer a viable option, that we have to bring it down to 1.5. I think the main issue is that climate change is a very nebulous subject. It happens silently, so you can't actually see it. So no government actually looks at it as an immediate threat, because the projections are long-term and deterministic in nature. And in Pakistan, there's so many other issues that we have with economy, with trade, with political infighting, that climate change has been relegated far below the position that it deserves. But I think that in times to come, and it's not very far away, in the next 5 or 10 years perhaps, in Pakistan and around the world, people will start paying it more attention, because its impacts will become more palpable. There's several areas, but since you're asking me to narrow them down to 2, I would say, in Pakistan, perhaps what we need most is better management of water. Because we have a water crisis, but we don't have a water crisis if we manage our water better. And the other elephant in the room for us is our population growth rate. I think we need to reduce the numbers or the growth rate to be able to manage climate change. And the other, 2 aspects which I will add on are education, because that is where it all begins, to sensitize you, to make you better citizens, to give you a better civic sense, and the role of gender. Because I think we are really marginalizing half the population by not including them in the decision-making processes. So if we bring at least these 4 elements together, we have a better chance of coping with climate change, building resilience at all levels, and reducing the vulnerability.